got stuck in some Velcro. They're not my opening remarks. Yeah, we just wanted to touch on the senseless shooting last night in Orlando. It actually happened 2 blocks away from our hotel. Thankfully, all the staff and players and everyone involved with the club is safe. But something that obviously has impacted us a little bit today, and I'm sure has impacted a lot of people in the area of Orlando. So we send out our thoughts to all the family and people that have been affected by last night's senseless act. So yeah, we'll start with that.
All right, thanks, Laura. And if you have a question on Zoom, please raise your hand. Steven, go ahead.
Hi, Laura. Thanks for addressing that to start. Just kind of want to start overall with your thoughts. Last game of the year. It's from your perspective, from Orlando's perspective, it's not got a lot of meaning other than just go out there and you want to kind of go out strong footing. I wonder if you could kind of share kind of what you've talked with the team about for this game and what you want to see out of them.
Yeah, we had a conversation after the Houston game, and I was pretty open with them and said I have my targets that I'd like to do over the next 10 days, 2 weeks leading up into Orlando. But I wanted to hear from them what they wanted to get out of the next however many training sessions we had at that point left. And the consensus from the group was that they wanted to prepare and create a game plan and put our best foot forward to go out and come here and try and get a result. So that's how we've approached it. And I think that just sets the tone really of this group and what this club's about. We want to win. We're obviously disappointed that we haven't been able to do that too much this year or enough to be able to claw our way into the playoffs. But it doesn't mean that that's what we don't strive to do every day. We definitely strive to do that. So, that's sort of been the mindset that as a collective we set the tone of that sort of first session back after we played Houston, and since then we've been doing everything every day with that as in the back of our minds of what we want to try and achieve.
Okay, thanks. And to follow up on that, Orlando, even with a couple of stumbles in their most recent games, has still got the stingiest defense in the league. I wonder if you could talk a little bit about what you're focusing on to try and generate some goals from an offense that's kind of been stuttering a little bit in the last few games.
Yeah, I think, I don't know if we're one of the only teams, we may be, that has scored 2 goals against them this year in a game. So I feel like we actually caused them quite a few problems when we played them at home. And we didn't give them a ton of opportunities to beat us outside of the goals that they scored. So I think that says a lot about who we are, that we can actually create and score against this team. That no one seems to be able to do. And, credit to them, they've had a fantastic year. I'm sure coming off the back of 2 defeats may make that defence even more want to be stingy tomorrow. But I think for us it's about trying to control the game when we can with the ball. And without the ball, make it as challenging as possible for them. And if we win it off them, trying to create opportunities in those moments I think could be valuable to us tomorrow.
Thank you.
Thanks, Steven. And then Jackie, go ahead.
Thank you. Hey, Laura. Appreciate you sharing your opening remarks and glad to hear that everyone's okay, at least in the rain side of things. But wanted to ask just kind of a general question as I've been talking to different coaches and players throughout the league when it comes to NWSL playoffs and obviously just that kind of end of the year grind and excitement as well. And just I know it's obviously different for the Reign this year, but when you think about just from where the league started to where it's at now, just what are you most excited about in terms of the competition and just seeing it grow?
Yeah, I mean, we live in a different world than we used to. I think our first day of pre-season was like January 22nd and it's November 1st today. So that's a very different timeline than it used to be. And it is a grind, it's hard work. I hear a lot from people outside of the league that the league's too short and it doesn't go long enough. And I'm like, okay, come try living in it for 5 minutes. Tell me if you think it's too short, because the toll that it takes to travel to all of these places is a lot. We've flown a 6-hour flight to get to Orlando. We flew 3 days before the game because It's so far. The climate is drastically different from where we've come from. So, you know, I think that the way that the league's expanded, the way that the league's grown, has made it a fantastic competition to be part of. Every game's competitive, you know, even like tomorrow. There's nothing really on the line, really, that matters. But both teams, I'm sure, are going to go out to win and truly believe that they could, you know, and you just don't get that in every league. And I think that it is very unique and it is very special and it's something that should be celebrated. And also, you know, like the playoffs, like, you know, I've said for a long time, I think that the Shield needs to have more recognition than it has. And maybe I'm biased because I've won it 3 times, maybe. But to win this thing over this many games and be consistent is hard. It's really hard. But the playoffs is different. You don't need to be consistent. You just need to win 3 games. And, you know, that I hope, I don't have any bias in the playoffs at all, but I hope that doesn't happen to Orlando. But it could, right? They've been fantastic this year and it could mean nothing. And that's how harsh and how amazing this league is, you know? I don't know. Bay or Louisville, who could scrape in on that last spot, could win it all. And no one will remember that they finished 8th. All they'll remember is that they won it. And I do think that that's a cool thing. I just wish that the Shield got more recognition than it does. And now it's actually supposedly got a really cool trophy, so maybe they'll send us a couple of them along the way, or 3. You know, just 3. That'd be fine.
Good deal. No, for sure. Also, follow up to that too. Just thinking about talking about Orlando and just thinking about your group. I know obviously there's been lots of just ups and downs throughout the season, but when you think about just the core of what this team values and just just your team as a whole, like what are you most proud of when you think about maybe just some of the character traits that they embody through those challenges, or I don't know if there's anything that comes to mind and maybe just like a consistent theme or message that you've seen from them.
Yeah, I think it's been the most turbulent year I've been involved in this club. From departures to trades to injuries to loans to, you know, so many things that just keep getting thrown at you. And I think the biggest word I can always use as a trait for the group is that they're resilient. They're resilient. They turn up every day. You'd never know. If you walked into our training environment or into our film sessions and you didn't know our results, you wouldn't know. And I think that says a lot about the culture of this team. That, you know, acting in a certain way when chips are down and things aren't going right, it's just not accepted here. And I hope, you know, long before my time ends or after my time ends and long after Lou and Jess walk away, I hope that that's the thing that stays forever, because you can't replicate it. I've tried. It's a special thing that exists in this place, and hopefully that will live on forever.
Yeah, for sure. We'll appreciate your time and good luck this weekend.
Thanks.
Thanks, Jackie. And then we'll go back to Steven.
Just one more from me. I want to ask, speaking of miles traveled, you had a number of players away on international duty for a longer window than usual. I wonder if you kind of give an update on status of all the internationals and some of the other players who've been out with injury, like Quinn.
Yeah, Quinn didn't travel to Orlando, still struggling. The internationals all came back okay. Jess is probably the one with the biggest doubt, just that, you know, she'd been out for quite a while and had to show her Welsh heroics the way that only she can, and got to play 120 minutes for it too. So yeah, she's probably the only one that really we have worries about. And again, you know, if this was a playoff game or this was something that had real meaning outside of it being a game that we want to win, might it be more likely that she and we would want to risk more than we would tomorrow? Probably. But I think where the year that she's had, you know, the little niggly injuries she's had here or there, it's just not something that we would potentially would want to risk if it is something that could hurt her long term. So she'll be someone that we have to make a decision about in the morning, I think.
Thank you.
Thanks, Stephen. And then I'll just ask this one question that Jeff asked. I know you already kind of touched on it, Laura, but Jeff sent in a question from Pros International. He wanted to ask about the importance of a strong finish in regards to the team's process heading then into the off-season.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we'd love a strong finish. That would be amazing. I don't think it changes much of what the off-season should look like, if I'm honest. I think the off-season has to be something where we sit and reflect and really try to make things in a better place than we've found it this year. I think that's what our job is. So, yeah, I think tomorrow, obviously, if we can get a good performance and get a good result, it might make you feel better for a little bit, but it's not going to take away from the disappointment that we have over the whole year, I don't think.
Okay, thanks, Laura. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks,
we'll
guys.
have Emery in a second.